Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. With me today, our very special guest, Heimster.
Excuse me. Yes, hello.
And of course, the always lovely Tim.
Howdy.
And I'm Jason, and we're talking The Who. And we're talking Who Are You? If you haven't seen the previous videos in the series, check out the playlist link down below. And as you can see, we're all kind of all over the place in our rankings, so you definitely
There
want
was
to go.
a point where we were all the same.
There was a point, and that quickly changed. So, let's go with Who Are You?
So, there was a period, and I go through periods in and out of periods, actually. where this is really my favorite Who album. Not just because I remember it so well when it was released. And it was one of the songs, the title track was one of the songs that my brother played at my bar mitzvah party. And if you can imagine me dancing to "Who Are You?" But it felt highly relevant too, to my life. I was in 7th grade, and I felt very connected. I felt very glad that I was living in a time when a new Who album was coming out. And so not that it was the first Who album that I had lived through, but I think it was the first time that I was at an age where I was aware of what it was all about as a fan. Coupled with the fact that Mooney died a month after it was released. Yeah, the first time I listened to it in its entirety, I had it on a boom box and pair of headphones, and I was in a van with a bunch of other people, and we were going through the Holland Tunnel coming into New York City. And I remember it was that moment in New Song where the horns come in, da 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 da, and I just saw the grandeur of New York City in front of me, and I'll never forget that.
That's one of the beautiful things about music, just in general. I'm like beyond the Who, right? Like you hear something and it can magically transport you to a time and place every time you hear it.
Worse. For better
or worse, yeah.
I consciously, as I've gotten older, if I'm going through something bad, I will consciously not listen to music so my brain doesn't connect them. So, for instance,
okay.
I know this is kind of off topic, but like when my dad died, on the way to the funeral, I was listening to Alkaline Trio's This Addiction album. And now every time I hear that record, it puts me back in that car on that drive, and it's like,
of course,
kind of affects the
not a place you really want to be.
Right. So it can lower the value of a record, or it can raise it in the case of Who Are You?
No, for sure.
So it makes music great.
The Beatles song "Good Day Sunshine" was playing when I was in the car with my dad, and we got into a horrible car accident, and I can't hear the song "Good Day Sunshine" without thinking of that day in February in it was 1978. It was just, they're forever associated.
Yep. Getting back to this record and the album cover, I never noticed, but like that whole "not to be taken away" on the chair is pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
That's pretty heavy.
That was a big topic of discussion once upon a time.
I bet it was.
Was it a piece of prophecy?
Yeah.
Man,
really, I mean, Keith's what, 33 here?
Yeah, something like that.
He didn't make it into the club.
And he looks 63. Like, this man lived hard.
And the position of the chair was meant to hide his paunch, because he was bursting out of those pants.
Yeah, no longer the lovable pinup boy from
right.
The Kids Are All Right, or
right. The darling boy.
He had sobered up at this point, though, right? Like, he was trying to do right.
Right. He
overdosed on the drug that was prescribed to him to keep him from drinking.
Heminevrin.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was trying to be on the straight and narrow, but
what I love about the cover actually is that it feels, in a sense, that it's a continuation of Who by Numbers. It's that, it's a study of road life, and it's also a very honest picture of who they are as individuals. Mm-hmm. Townsend was always very, very into being well dressed on tour, particularly when they traveled. He was very into fashion, and Raj is, he's got the muscle shirt on. It's all about his showing off his bod, his locks,
because he's a movie star at this point.
Is he actually in films at this point? He's in Listomania.
Tommy's out and Listomania's out.
Right, that's true. Yeah. So he's and I think his first solo album had come out at this point as well, Daltrey, which actually has at least one really nice song on it.
Yeah. I have that one.
Yeah. So and Moon also had a solo album out at this point as well, which was Two Sides of the Moon, which is really not a very good album, but because Keith Moon couldn't sing. I mean,
sure.
he had a great falsetto when it was part of the band, but he was just goofing around pretty much.
I have.
You have it. There you go. Yeah.
I have.
He does a fun version.
Found this one for $10 even, and I said, "Oh, it's coming home with me."
There's a fun version of the Beach Boys' "Don't Worry, Baby" on there.
Yeah. I don't know if I can show this on YouTube, but it's got a fun little cutout in the window.
Oh, really?
Where you pull the thing out, right? Yeah. And it's his face in the window of the car.
Uh-huh.
But if you flip it...
Uh-oh.
I have to get my little Tim Face editor.
You get the other side of the moon.
Nice. Two sides of the moon.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're not streaming HD 4K.
And that's Dougal on the cover as well.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. And I think Ringo does drums on a couple songs.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, Ringo's on the album. Joe Walsh makes an appearance. John Sebastian.
Yeah, the party group.
Rick Nelson.
My Who Are You though wasn't as
Flo and Eddie.
I'm not sure about this record. This was a weird album musically.
It's got a lot of orchestration on it. It's a heavily produced album. They weren't really together in the studio very much at all. When they recorded this, they recorded their parts separately on it.
Mm-hmm.
That always sucks. It always suffers when they do that.
Keith had difficulty playing all together. And so some of his playing is belabored. Some of it is really stellar, and some of it is plodding, one could say. There are another couple of Lifehouse tracks on here as well. There's Sister Disco, Music Must Change, And is that it?
Yeah, because this is Pete responding to punk and disco.
Yeah. Although he said in an interview recently that he said Sister Disco was not meant to be a middle finger to disco. He said he loved disco. There were a lot of things about it that he liked, and he was into the scene too.
But it is kind of a middle finger. And certainly at that time it was, disco sucks, and we're firm rockers at this point. We're carrying the torch for rock at this point.
Right.
Yeah, he got 3 Entwistle songs on this album.
Right.
And they're all pretty good. My favorite song on here, though, by Pete, has got to be Guitar and Pen.
It's a mini opera.
And it's a song about not being able to write a song. And I'm kind of a sucker for that. Like, okay, I'm here playing my song, and I don't know what to sing about. But he makes it, work. He makes it work.
And he tells...
your hand, you hold your only friend.
Right.
Never spend your guitar or your pen.
Right. Little double meanings in there.
It's cruising a melody.
And
yeah, definitely cruising a melody.
It's a little story about him smashing his guitar when his grandma Denny came in and told him and John to turn the music down, and he smashed his guitar at the end of the bed. So there's stuff in there that harkens back to some of his early frustrations as a writer, growing and developing as a writer. You pick up your guitar, you can suddenly play when your fingers are bleeding and the knuckles are white, and you can be sure you can open the door.
If only you had something to write.
Well, my top songs would be 905 and Love is Coming.
Whistle song.
Love is Coming Down.
That's a good one too.
I like the count. Like the first chance, I blew it. I better start it again. Second chance, ooh, I knew it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, there's some beautiful stuff going on there musically.
Third chance, I'm cut up. Life's like a razor's edge. Fourth chance, I'm all shut up and I'm standing on the ledge. I like it when bands do that, like counting or the months or
And Trick of the Light is a fun little Entwistle song about falling in love with a hooker.
Right.
Yeah. Right. The music must change.
Prophetic, especially when you think about the front as well.
When you sing through the verse and you end in a scream and you swear and you curse because the rhyming ain't clean, but it suddenly comes after years of delay. You pick up your guitar, you can suddenly play. When your fingers are bleeding and the knuckles are white, then you can be sure you can open the door, get off of the floor tonight. You have something to write. It sounds like a Dylan lyric.
Yeah, that is kind of Dylan-esque.
And I always wondered about Music Must Change. It's like he could be talking about the scene in general, like punk, disco, whatever was going on in the late 70s. He could also be talking about his music and how he's like ready to move on past, this drivel they call the Who that he's being forced to write. And he wants to get, he wants to get deep into it. And it's a fun little back and forth there.
Yeah,
I took it as it's 1978. A lot of things happen in the 70s, music genre-wise. That's really when it started to explode in different genres, as opposed to like the 50s and the 60s. And, music must change. Like he could feel there's a radical shift between the 70s and the 80s. And the Who was just right around the corner. They knew it was coming.
Well, and this closes out their 70s output, so I'm going to go on record and say, hell of a decade. Nothing but bangers.
Right.
He does sound like... Who sings Music Must Change?
That's Roger.
Daltrey.
Yeah.
He sounds like the smog monster from that old Fern Gully kids movie. Super interesting.
Daltrey as a foghorn. The re-release CD of this has some really interesting material on it. It has
Absolutely.
a couple of Townsend solo pieces which he workshopped with the Who before Moon died. There's a Who version of Empty Glass.
Which is well worth checking out.
It really is. It really is. Some really amazing bass stuff. There's a track called No Road Romance, which continues that theme of frustration and just exhaustion with road work.
It's one of my favorite Who songs. I remember, so my first copy of this album was just a regular CD. And then when the streaming services happened, I went, oh, there's bonus tracks here? And I listened to it, and No Road Romance just like came out of the speakers, slapped me across the face, and said, you're never going to not listen to this song.
Yeah, it's true.
It is really, really good.
But it changed the way that you appreciated the album entirely, because it gave you a different insight to what was happening with the band and what they were doing experimentally, and it's another specimen to indicate the Moon's decline. He didn't know what to do.
Well, and I think part of that too was, because that's a really intense song, songwriting-wise. Yeah. And so I have a feeling he's, at this first pass or whatever, he's just sticking to whatever Pete had on the demo. Probably. Thinking that there'd be another chance.
Probably. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because, like, Empty Glass, I prefer this version to the solo version,
Really?
I do, because you get that Entwistle Moon steam train behind it.
Right. That harmonic bass thing that he does is really cool.
Yeah.
I like it as a historical piece, and I don't think I probably ever made a decision as to which version I like better, but I like playing them back to back and hearing it and understanding it that way. I always have. I've always loved compiling lists of these songs with the demo against the produced Who version of it, because, well, first of all, you get a sense of Townsend's creativity, the fact that he could have done all of this himself. He could have put together a different band to do a lot of these songs. And I think that's, part of what I think some of the disgust that the other band members have for him is that he's treating the Who as another Pete Townsend project, like, look what I did. Look what I can do. I can do this without you. And that couldn't be a pleasant thing to work with. And yet you sort of marvel at it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's an interesting dynamic that the band had throughout their career, as far as songwriting and taking Pete's vision and
who's the center of attention.
Yeah, they're all very, besides John, I guess, but they're all very high-profile characters for the time,
vying for your attention.
Yeah, if this would have been the Stones, it would have been Roger and Pete, and that was it, basically.
Sure. And we would have also been dealing with what?
Even Aerosmith at this point.
Work? That was after this.
It'd be like Steven Tyler, Joe Perry. Nobody knew who Joey Kramer was, or Brad Whitford or whoever.
Brad Whitford, yeah.
Yeah, you know who Keith Moon is. You know who
Sure.
John is. It's.
I'll trade you 4 Tom Hamiltons for.
I'll trade you 4 Tom Hamiltons and a Kramer for Keith
Moon. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know about this one though. Like ranking it. It's the.
I mean, they're all pretty tough to rank.
Again, I have no idea.
However, am going to put it firmly between My Generation and A Quick One.
I'm going to put it behind My Generation and A Quick One.
Okay.
Up to this point, this was my... Even the Who Are You single, it's not my favorite Who single at all. I can... Maybe I just grew up with it too much, and I can still picture my mom walking around the house going, "Who are you?"
I mean, it's a fun song. It is a fun song.
I'll take
it's a very spiritual song. It's a very introspective song. It implies that moment of self-realization when you look in the mirror and you ask yourself that question.
Yeah, the theme of the album is there, and having it as the closing track is fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's a decent album. Don't get me wrong.
We're still in the greens here. We're still in the greens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I have a very intimate relationship with most of these albums, and I've spent lots and lots and lots of time with all of these albums. Probably more than I care to say. And so it's I do find the ranking difficult because when I'm listening to any one of them, I get a surge of feeling that says, this is the best fucking Who album. And I say that with full honesty and with full irony as well, of course. Let's say, for the sake of this little game that we're playing, we're going to put it at number 7.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And it's just a game,
Yeah. Yep.
Connect the dots. Who by numbers.
Yep. It's all for fun, all to discuss, Anybody out there upset by it needs to go get a life, touch grass, whatever you do. Let us know your comments down below, or your rankings. Let us know.
Right? Who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah. Who are you?
That was
Who
good.
Are you?
And who's next? Face Dances is next. Stick around, subscribe. Because we're going to talk about Face Dances next, which that's going to be a fun one. First non-Keith record.
Yeah. The end of an era here. End of an era.
It's the end of the era.
The album that shows up on the cover of Time magazine.
That's an interesting story. I don't know that. We'll get to that. All right, so like, subscribe, be safe, make good decisions.
All right.